Story 1, The Abandoned Motel Office. My name is Denise Harper, and I'm 28 years old. I work as a motel manager at the Crossroads Motor Lodge, located off Highway 19 in North Carolina. And the night I stayed late to handle some paperwork, while a severe thunderstorm rolled in, is the night I discovered that someone had been living in the storage room beneath the office for weeks, without anyone knowing. Before I begin, if you work at a motel alone at night, always check the storage areas and basement spaces regularly. Keep listening, because the person I found down there wasn't dangerous, but what they were running from would change everything about how I understood that night. It was Thursday evening, and I had to stay late to finish the monthly inventory. The Crossroads Motor Lodge was a small place with maybe 30 rooms spread across 2 buildings. It was the kind of motel that attracted truckers passing through and occasional families on road trips. The pay was decent, and the work was mostly straightforward. I would arrive in the morning. I would handle check-ins and check-outs. I would manage the staff. I would leave in the evening, but this particular Thursday, the manager had called in sick, and I had offered to stay and finish the paperwork that needed to be done. By 6 o'clock, the staff had left. By 7 o'clock, the last guest had settled into their room. By 8 o'clock, I was alone in the office doing inventory and bookkeeping. The weather had started to turn by 7:30. Rain began falling. By 8:30, it was a serious storm. The wind was picking up. The lightning was flashing. The thunder was rolling across the sky. I could see it all through the office windows. It was the kind of storm that made you want to stay inside and lock the doors. I was working on the computer around 9 o'clock when I heard a sound from below, from the basement, the sound of movement. The sound of something or someone moving in the storage area beneath the office. The motel had a basement that we used for storing extra supplies, laundry equipment, and maintenance equipment. The basement was accessed by a door behind the front desk. I didn't often go down there. The manager usually handled the inventory of those items. I stopped working. I listened. The sound came again. Definitely movement. Definitely something or someone down there. I told myself it was probably just the building settling, or maybe a pipe or something mechanical that made noise during storms. But I should check. It was my responsibility. I got up from my desk. I went to the basement door. I turned on the light switch. The lights below flickered on. I could see down the stairs. Everything looked normal from what I could see. I descended the stairs. The basement was cool and damp. It smelled like concrete and dust. The lighting was dim with only a few bulbs illuminating the space. I walked through slowly. I checked behind the storage shelves. I checked near the water heater. I checked everywhere I could think of. And then I saw it. I saw something that didn't belong. Near the corner where we kept the extra linens and pillows, there was a makeshift bed. There was a sleeping bag. There was a pillow. There were empty food containers. There was a person's belongings scattered in a small space. Someone had been living in my basement. Someone had created a shelter down here. Someone had been hiding in the storage room of the Crossroads Motor Lodge. I heard movement. Real movement. Not from machinery or pipes, but from behind one of the large storage units. A person emerged. It was a woman. She was maybe in her early 30s. She looked frightened. She looked like someone who had been living rough. She said, "Please don't call the police." She said I didn't hurt anyone. She said I just needed a place to stay. I asked her name. She said, "Patricia." She said she had been here for about 3 weeks. She said she came in through a window that wasn't locked properly. She said she had been leaving at night and coming back. She said she used the basement to sleep. She said she knew it was wrong, but she had nowhere else to go. I should have called the police immediately. This was trespassing. This was a crime. But something about her story made me pause. Something about her desperation made me want to understand what was happening. I asked her what she was running from. She told me that she had been in an abusive relationship for 5 years. She said her partner had hurt her repeatedly. She said she had finally found the courage to leave. She said she had taken some money from their joint account, and she had run. She said her partner had reported her as a missing person. She said the police were looking for her. She said she was hiding in my basement because she was afraid he would find her if she stayed in a shelter where there would be records. The storm outside was getting worse. The rain was coming down harder. The wind was howling. The thunder was shaking the building. And here in the basement, I was face to face with a woman who had escaped violence and was hiding from someone who was looking for her. I made a decision. I told her she could stay the night. I told her that in the morning, I would help her find proper resources. I told her that there were shelters and organizations that could actually protect her properly. I told her that hiding in a motel basement was not safe long term. She cried. She thanked me. She said she didn't know what else to do. I went back upstairs. I finished my paperwork. I locked the office, and I waited for morning. When the sun came up, the storm had passed. I helped Patricia contact a domestic violence shelter. I drove her there myself. I made sure she was safe. The authorities were contacted, and Patricia told them the truth about her situation. Her partner was eventually arrested when he showed up at the shelter looking for her. Patricia got a restraining order. Patricia got help. Patricia got away from the violence. But here is what haunts me about that night. When I found Patricia in the basement, I had no idea if what she was telling me was true. I had no idea if she was actually running from an abusive partner or if she was running from something else entirely. I had no idea if helping her was the right choice. I made a decision in the moment based on her story and my instinct. But what if I had been wrong? What if she was dangerous? What if I had put myself in real danger by helping her? The storm that night seemed to protect her. The rain and the thunder and the darkness seemed to create an environment where someone could hide and not be found. And when I found her in that basement, I chose to protect her instead of calling the authorities. And it turned out okay. It turned out that Patricia was exactly who she said she was. But I'll never know what would have happened if things had been different. Story 2. The Rain and the Stranger in the Car. My name is Kevin Torres, and I'm 34 years old. I work as a mechanic at an auto repair shop in Memphis, Tennessee. And the night I was working alone late to finish a job and discovered someone had broken into the shop to hide from something is the night I understood that danger doesn't always come in the form you expect. Before I begin, if you work alone at night in a commercial building, make sure you lock all the doors and windows before you settle into your work. Keep listening because the person who broke into my shop that night was not there to steal or to hurt anyone, but their presence would lead me to witness something I was never supposed to see. I had been working at the auto repair shop for 8 years. I started as an apprentice and worked my way up to being a full mechanic. The shop was located in an industrial area of Memphis. We had about 10 mechanics on staff during the day, but at night the place was quiet. On this particular Thursday, I had a car that needed some major work, and I wanted to finish it before the weekend. The owner had promised the customer the car would be ready by Monday morning. So I stayed late. By 8 o'clock, I was the only one in the building. The rest of the staff had left for the day. The shop was locked up. The only thing I had to worry about was finishing the work on the car. The weather had started to deteriorate around 7. By 8, the rain was coming down hard. The wind was picking up. The lightning was flashing through the large windows of the shop. I was working on the engine around 9 o'clock when I heard something. A sound from the back of the shop. A sound like something had been knocked over. A sound like someone was moving around in the storage area. I turned off my tools. I listened. I was alone in the building. The doors were locked. All the windows were secure. But there was definitely someone else in the building with me. Someone had gotten inside somehow. Someone was in the storage area in the back of the shop. I grabbed a wrench. It was the closest thing to a weapon that I had. I went toward the storage area carefully. The area was dark. I turned on the lights, and I saw him. A man, maybe in his 40s. He was wearing wet clothes. He was looking terrified. He had a gun in his hand. I froze. My heart stopped. The man was holding a gun and he was pointing it at me. I said, "Don't move." I said, "I'm not going to hurt you." I said, "Just tell me what you want." He said he needed to hide. He said he was in trouble. He said he had to stay somewhere out of sight. He said he would only stay for a little while. He said he would be gone by morning. He said he was sorry. I said, "Okay." I said I wasn't going to do anything. I said I was just going to stay calm, and nobody had to get hurt. He seemed to relax slightly. He said thank you. He said he appreciated my understanding. We stood there in the storage area of my auto repair shop with him holding a gun and me holding a wrench. The storm was raging outside. The rain was pounding against the windows. The lightning was flashing, and I was trying to figure out what the next move was. I asked him what he was running from. He said he couldn't tell me. He said it was better if I didn't know. He said the less I knew, the better for me. I said, "Okay." I said I understood, but I asked him if anyone was in danger. He said no. He said he hadn't hurt anyone and he wasn't going to. He said he just needed a safe place to wait. I told him he could wait in the office. I told him there was a couch in there. I told him to make himself comfortable. He seemed surprised by my kindness. He seemed not to expect that I would help him. But he took me up on the offer. He went to the office and he closed the door. For the next hour, I tried to continue working, but I couldn't concentrate. I kept thinking about the man in my office with a gun. I kept thinking about what he might be running from. I kept thinking about whether I had made a terrible mistake. Around 11 o'clock, I heard a sound from outside. Car headlights pulling into the parking lot. A car was pulling up to the shop. Multiple headlights. Multiple vehicles. Police vehicles. The police were pulling up to my shop. Before I could do anything, the man came running out of the office. He said they found me. He said I need to leave. He said they're going to think you helped me. He said you need to say I forced my way in. He said you need to say I threatened you. And then he ran. He ran through the shop and out the back entrance. He disappeared into the darkness and the rain. The police came into the shop moments later. They asked me what had happened. I told them that a man had forced his way into the building. I told them he had a gun. I told them he had threatened me. I told them he had just left through the back. The police searched the building. They searched the surrounding area. They searched the parking lot. But the man had vanished. The police took my statement. They checked the building for damage to see how he had gotten in. They found a window in the back that had been forced open. They found evidence that he had been looking for a place to hide. They asked me questions about what he looked like and what he had said. I didn't tell them everything. I didn't tell them that I had voluntarily let him use the office. I didn't tell them that I had shown him kindness. I didn't tell them that I had been willing to help him. I told them what he had asked me to tell them, that he had forced his way in and threatened me. Later, I found out through news reports that the man was wanted for questioning in connection with a murder. The victim was a woman who had been found dead a few miles from my shop. The police believed the man had killed her in a crime of passion. The police had found his car abandoned near the shop. The police believed he had been trying to hide and escape. If I had not been kind to him, if I had refused to let him use the office, would things have been different? Would the police have caught him faster? Would the victim's family have gotten different answers? Would justice have been served differently? I'll never know. Because the man disappeared into that rainstorm and was never found. He vanished completely. No arrests were ever made in connection with the victim's death. The case went cold, and I'm left with the knowledge that I harbored someone who may have committed a serious crime. I'm left with the knowledge that I helped him hide. I'm left with the knowledge that when he told me to say he forced his way in, I lied to the police. I chose to protect him instead of tell the truth. The storm that night was severe and isolating. It created an environment where a desperate person could break into a building and hide. It created an environment where I was alone and vulnerable. It created an environment where kindness and deception became confused in my mind. Story 3. The woman who came in from the rain. My name is Eleanor Davis, and I'm 41 years old. I work as the night manager of a 24-hour convenience store located on a quiet street in a small town in Kentucky. And the night a woman came into the store soaking wet during a severe thunderstorm without a purse or identification, and seemed confused about where she was, is the night I discovered that sometimes people lose themselves in ways that have nothing to do with physical location. Before I begin, if you work at a convenience store, pay attention to customers who seem disoriented or confused about basic things, like what city they're in. Keep listening, because the woman who came into my store that night was experiencing something far more serious than just being lost. And what happened to her would reveal a danger that exists in the most ordinary places. I had been working the night shift at the Lucky 7 convenience store for about 3 years. The job was straightforward. I rang up purchases. I managed the cash register. I restocked shelves. I kept the store clean. The night shift was mostly quiet. Occasional customers came in for gas or snacks or drinks. The work was easy and relatively uneventful. Thursday night was busy enough. It was close to the end of the month, so people were doing their regular shopping. By 10 o'clock, when most of the traffic had died down, the storm started. The rain came suddenly and heavily. By 11, the storm was severe. The lightning was flashing. The thunder was rolling. The wind was pushing rain against the store windows. Around midnight, a woman came into the store. She was soaking wet. She was shaking from the cold. She had no purse. She had no jacket. She was just wearing a thin dress that was plastered to her body from the rain. She looked confused. She looked like someone who didn't understand where she was or how she had gotten there. She walked up to the counter where I was standing. She asked me what city this was. I told her she was in Riverside, Kentucky. She looked confused. She said that wasn't right. She said she didn't know how she had gotten to Kentucky. She said she was supposed to be in Tennessee. I asked her if she was okay. She said no. She said she didn't know who she was or how she had gotten to this store. She said the last thing she remembered was being at home with someone. She said everything after that was blank. This was concerning. This was someone who was disoriented and confused. I asked her for her name. She couldn't remember it. I asked her for her address. She couldn't remember it. I asked her if she had someone I could call. She couldn't remember any phone numbers. I called an ambulance. I called the police. I told them about the woman who had come into my store during the storm, without identification, and without any memory of how she got there. The paramedics arrived first. They assessed her. They said she seemed to be experiencing some kind of dissociative episode, or memory loss. They said they needed to take her to a hospital. While we were waiting for the ambulance, the woman started to become more agitated. She said she didn't want to go to the hospital. She said she wanted to leave. She said she needed to go find someone. She said she couldn't let him see that she was confused. She said if he saw that she couldn't remember things, he would be angry. I asked her who he was. She couldn't answer. She seemed frightened by the question. She seemed like the question had reminded her of something dangerous. When the paramedics took her away, I filed a report with the police. I described the woman. I described her appearance. I described the fact that she seemed to be fleeing from someone or hiding something. 2 days later, I saw a news report. A woman matching the description of the woman who had come into my store had been reported missing by her family. Her name was Amanda. She was from Tennessee. She had been missing for 3 days. The police believed she had been in a car with someone when she disappeared. The police came to my store and interviewed me. They asked me about the woman's appearance. They asked me about what she had said. They asked me about her mental state. I told them everything I could remember. What came out over the next few weeks was a story of domestic abuse. Amanda had been in an abusive relationship for 4 years. The man she was with had been controlling and violent. He had kept her isolated. He had monitored her movements. He had told her that if she ever tried to leave, he would find her and hurt her. On that Thursday night, Amanda had finally tried to escape. She had run from his car during the storm. She had run through the rain in the dark with no plan and no destination. She had ended up at my convenience store by complete accident. The confusion and disorientation she was experiencing was a trauma response. Her mind had essentially shut down the memories of how she had gotten there, as a way to protect itself from the horror of what had happened. The police found the man. They investigated him for kidnapping and abuse. But because of the complexity of the case, and because Amanda's memories were fragmented and unreliable, the prosecution was difficult. The man was eventually charged with lesser crimes. He served time in prison, but not as much time as many people felt he should have served. Amanda recovered her memories over time with the help of therapy and support. She eventually moved away from Kentucky. She eventually rebuilt her life. But I thought about her often. What haunts me about that night is the realization that the woman came into my store, not by chance, but because she was fleeing from violence. The storm that raged outside was not just weather. The storm was the environment that provided cover for her escape. The storm was the distraction that allowed her to run without being easily followed. And when she came into my store confused and disoriented, I recognized that something was wrong. I called for help. I did what I thought was right. But I also understood that sometimes helping someone means calling authorities. And authorities don't always have the resources or the ability to protect people from ongoing abuse. The woman who came in from the rain that night was saved by accident. She was saved by random chance. She was saved because she happened to run toward a convenience store, and I happened to recognize that she needed help. But there are other women, other people fleeing from violence who don't make it to a store, who don't encounter someone who recognizes their situation, who disappear into the rain and are never found. The thunderstorm that night felt like it was protecting her. It felt like the rain and the darkness were giving her cover to escape. But safety is fragile. Protection is temporary. And the person you're running from is still out there, still looking, still waiting for the moment when you're vulnerable again. Every time it rains heavily now, every time there's a thunderstorm, and I'm working the night shift, I think about Amanda. I think about the woman who came in soaking wet and confused. I think about how she was lucky. I think about how many others aren't as lucky. And I think about the fact that sometimes the only thing standing between someone in danger and actual safety is a stranger who notices something is wrong and takes the time to help.